There's been a number of at least reach outs of, um, are we, why aren't we talking about the remote since it's the way they're going back? And at this week, well, not this week, on the 8th is our regular board meeting. We will take a snapshot of where we are on remote, what classes look like for each of the schools, as much as we can to provide information back to parents and students on, um, what life is going to look like. All right. So with that, why don't we get started?
Okay, that's me, Perry.
Yep.
I'm sorry, Laura. Sorry, Perry. Sorry, Laura. Can I ask a question about something that happened last week? Am I allowed to do it now?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. The question I have is, I don't know. I guess it's Brian for transportation. Can you talk about the Lords? What's happening with the Lords transportation? Because I spoke to Debbie today, and she said some things, and I'm a little confused as to how this is, how Lords is going to, how the kids are getting to school, and the time frame. Are you able to speak to that?
Well, if is there a specific question? Sure. You
Well,
just want
from
me
what
to give like background information about what I know about the Lord's Run? Would that be helpful?
Well, yeah, I mean, you can do that. I can tell you what she had said to me, and which is what's causing a great concern to me.
Okay. Yeah, we can do that now, or if it's just you, we can do that offline too and have a conversation. I don't know if it's you as a parent or if it's like a broader issue that we should discuss here.
No, I think it's a broader issue.
Okay.
So what I was told is that it's going to be one bus, and this bus is going to start out in Burbank, come through to Millbrook, and then go out to Clinton Corners, and then back out to Lords. So potentially those children could be on the bus from, let's say, because she said that Millbrook students have to, if they're from Millbrook and they get brought in, then the students are to be there at 7 o'clock. So potentially the Burbank run is going to start probably getting picked up about 20 minutes to 7. And then they hit Millbrook at 7, Clinton Corners probably about 7:15, and then out to Lords at 7:15. So to me, I think that is a little bit much on a school bus. And I know that there's not that many children. So my concern is these children on for as long as they are. And with that said, if there's not many buses running because the school is not transporting students, why aren't we splitting up the runs to, like, let's say a north run and a south run, so the kids aren't on the bus that long?
Yeah, so there's this idea of a we have to have, and I forgot the exact name of it, based on SED regulation, centralized pickup point. I couldn't come up with that phrase off the top of my head, but there's a notion of a centralized pickup point that occurs for everybody who lives outside of 15 miles of the district.
Okay.
So anybody who lives within 15 miles of the district, we're on the hook for providing transportation to their private school. Anybody who lives outside of those 15 miles, if we're going there already, what ends up happening is we do approve those requests because if we're able to make that approval where it's not at additional cost to the taxpayers, we make that approval. And then the state education law says you'd create a centralized pickup point. So what happens is anybody who lives outside of those 15 miles, they generally come to the school district, and then we drive out from there. And then the people who live within those 15 miles, we usually do some version either of we're on the what I would say on the hook for a door-to-door delivery. So normally that would look like we'd pick them up at their house, bring them to the middle school, and then everybody would get on the same bus to Lords. Since we don't have those points and we're not picking up and doing regular runs, then we would reinstate that centralized pickup point. So I would imagine, without the benefit of doing any research before this, I would imagine that it's true that Debbie is accommodating that piece, making sure that everybody can get picked up, and everybody outside that 15-mile radius still has the ability to get to Lourdes, but on the centralized pickup point basis.
Who
I
makes that
I
decision,
guess what
Brian?
I'm sorry?
Who makes that decision? You know, is it even the bus runs themselves? Do you guys have input on bus runs, or do you know, do they just decide here's the optimal way to pick up students?
Yeah, I would say both. It comes with recommendations based on their 30 years of doing routing. And then if there's something else that they do that's unacceptable to the school district, we'll say, yeah, well, we appreciate that, but we really want to be able to do it this way. So what I would say is our Lourdes run is probably about $55,000. If we were to double the run, then we're in for $110,000. So we make our decisions based on safety. And if it means that there's a couple of extra minutes on a bus, you know, we'll weigh pros and cons and think about that. But that was the direction that that they came up with and was supported.
But Brian, I'm not, I guess I guess I'm missing something. I don't understand that because the school district is not, we're in session, but the buses aren't being used. So so we as taxpayers are paying for these buses. Why are we not able to take a second run to pick up those students? Because on a normal run, those students would be picked up, you know, along the route around 80, I'm going to say Route 82, all along those back roads on 82. Those kids are being picked up and brought out to Millbrook. I don't understand, if these buses are not being used, why are we not able to have other bus runs, a north run and a south run, and then bring them back to the centralized location, which would be Millbrook at 20 after 7, like it's always been, and then those go out to Lourdes. Like, I'm not understanding how it's, I mean, under any circumstance, how it's okay to have a child on a bus, no matter whether we're in school during normal school sessions, as to what it is now to have a child possibly be on a bus for an hour and could be an hour and 10 minutes.
Well,
When
I guess there's a couple of things that are important to note. Number one, we also don't know how this is going to completely shake out, because we're still hearing from parents, yes, I want transportation. No, I don't want transportation. So Debbie has been at a deficit. Everything changes every day with every new phone call because things are customized. So there's going to be some degree of us really needing to be a little bit in a holding pattern and understand really how this shakes out. So while I wouldn't suggest that this is where we would want to be here in Millbrook, based on commissioners' decisions, they said that it's acceptable for students to be on a bus for up to 90 minutes, depending on where you want to be. That's not where we want to be in Millbrook, and let's just understand that based on prior conversations. We don't want our children to be on a bus for an hour and a half before they start the day. But again, there's a little bit of understanding that we need to see where this is going to shake out. And there we had another,
but I also
to get deeper into this, Claudia, I would say that we should enter into executive session to finish a discussion that probably wouldn't be appropriate to be talking about right now. And if that's what the board would like to do, we could do that. But aside from that, I would say that we're in a spot where we should wait and see where things go and see how long people's rides are, based on when Debbie actually hears from the remainder of the parents and is able to complete her run.
Right, I agree with you on that, but we also have to understand that just because, I mean, the parents often has to understand this as well, is that if the school is opting for a bus, like, I know there are students that could drive to school, but we know kids get in trouble, they get their license taken away, or their parents are said they're going to pick them up in the afternoon and they can't, so then they have to take the bus. So there's always got to be that option, that there's always enough room on the bus for these students. And I know that the parents do originally have to sign up to say that. I mean, they can't go midstream, or maybe they can, I don't know how that works, but there's always got to be that option, that there's always enough room on the buses for these students.
So hey, Brian, so when will this stuff get locked in? I mean, I think it probably, especially given the fluid nature of everything that we're doing, it's probably a good time to, well, not now if it's not locked in, but to have you and Debbie maybe sit down and do a, you know, a session with the parents of not just Lourdes, but ones that are going to St. Columba and wherever. But it wouldn't do to, you know, to basically have that session just to explain the rules if the rules aren't done yet.
Well, they get so I would say that parents of private school students get a letter from me upon a board approval every year to talk about what our procedures are. And then Debbie reiterates that on the phone. So I haven't had a meeting with private school student parents. That just hasn't occurred. But to answer your question, Perry, the when, I would say it's true in any year, not a COVID year or not a remote year. Any year, it takes a couple of days for all of the bus runs to be ironed out. Any principal could share that with you. The lateness of the early runs in the morning, the you know, who's getting where when. It just takes a couple of days for that to be ironed out. So in an even more complicated year this year, I think that we should just let a couple of days, at minimally a week run to see what happens, and then make adjustments, reevaluate and make adjustments as necessary.
Okay. All right. Yeah, we gotta move into the facility stuff because we're a little bit behind. So with that, we do have, you know, there were follow-ups, questions and comments and things. Some of them were addressed in your email, Laura, but I think there's other ones. But what we'll probably do is wait until the board meeting. That way we're not taking up a bunch of time going backwards. All right,
Sure.
go ahead.
Okay, so good evening, Millbrook. As many of you know, the Board of Education has scheduled a series of BOE work sessions. Each session will focus on a specific category or component of our reentry plan, such as health and wellness, teaching and learning, special education, and child nutrition. We are using the New York State Education Department's reopening guidance or assurances to guide this work and our discussions. This is our second BOE work session, and we will be focusing on facilities, as Perry said. Tonight, we have our Director of Facilities, Mike Ragusa, Industrial Hygienist, John Evans, and Assistant Superintendent of Business, Finance, and Operations, Brian Freed, to walk us through the mandatory requirements for facilities as per state education guidance. There are 13 mandatory requirements that specifically fall under facilities. We'll share each one and discuss them. We'd like this to be a safe space to ask questions and share ideas. Please note that what we share is the best information that we have at this time to help prevent the transmission of this very novel and ever-changing coronavirus. We do not know what tomorrow will bring. We invite the community to virtually join this process and encourage you to submit questions. We hope we will answer your questions throughout this session, and if not, we have some time, like Perry said, set aside at the end for Q&A. There were some comments from the last board session regarding IDs, and then Chris also asked about what the transportation survey says, so I can share them at the end as well. So, all right, sorry. Okay, so that's just sort of the introduction. So let's talk facilities, and Brian, please start taking us through the walk.
All right. Will do. Is everybody able to see the presentation right now?
Yes.
Great. Okay. So this facilities portion of the of our review exists on pages 46 to 54 of that 145-page document that we've received from SED, and we'll again with the facilities, just like we did with transportation, we'll be going through the assurances that we've made, talk to you a little bit about what we've done with regard to the assurances, and answer whatever questions that you have. So each reopening plan included changes or additions to facilities. If we were going to do that, we must confirm that we comply with the requirements of the state uniform fire prevention and building code and the state energy conservation code and be able to submit all changes to the Office of Facilities Planning. So there are a lot of school districts out there that may need to do some renovations in order to be able to ensure compliance with social distancing or anything else. That's not the case for Millbrook. So that first bullet doesn't apply to us. Each reopening plan must ensure compliance with the 2020 building condition survey and visual inspection where applicable. So we did have our visual inspection, our building condition survey, as the board knows, we've actually been put off to 2024 as the state reconfigured its list for when we do our building condition survey. So this doesn't apply to us either. The reopening plan must provide provisions to conduct the lead and water testing as required by the New York State Department of Health regulations. So we are prepared and ready to do that. Mike wanted to be able to share some information with you about that, but we're not getting that until a little later in the year, and Mike will talk about why.
So the lead testing had to be done this year from January to December. And at my earlier SBGA meetings, in January and February, we had split up where we were going to do them so we wouldn't all be doing them at the same time. And obviously we were going to end up doing ours in June, just before school got out. And then in, I guess, May, when everything happened, everything got put off. It can't be done until the school is occupied. I've been in touch with the health department to see if we could have done it during summer school, and we couldn't. I'm trying to find out if we can do it if we come back at the hybrid model, to see if we can do it with half occupancy. And as soon as we can do it, we already have everything. I have the lists, we have the bottles, we have everything to do it. We just need people in the building to do it. And the okay from the health department that we can do it with half the building occupied. And we're ready to do it whenever.
Thank you, Mike. So basically the requirement is that the building needs to be occupied and
Yes.
water needs to be running in order to be able to do it. What we're in the process of getting is additional guidance as to whether or not we can do it with only half of the building here. And Mike is already prepared with all of his, with all of the water bottles. We have to do tests for each individual spout within our 4 buildings. And we're ready to do that as soon as we get the go ahead. Our reopening plan must ensure that all existing and new alcohol-based hand rub dispensers, which are installed in any locations, is in accordance with FCA NYS 2020, and that's section 5705.5. Mike, did you want to talk about that a little bit?
So that's the fire code, and we looked up everything, and we're well within code. It can't be so many inches from a outlet because it's got alcohol base in it. Originally they had to be only where they were could be monitored. Now they can be anywhere in the building. We have 33 more touchless sanitizers. Actually, we'll be here tomorrow, and we have a lot of the hand sanitizer that came with it, that's coming with it, enough to fill each unit 5 times. We'll be here tomorrow. People in the building, 33 on order, and everything that is in so far is within code. And whatever we put in, I'm thinking that we're going to put them outside all the gang bathrooms. So whenever anybody touches anything, doors or anything like that, even though we're going to have cleaning lists on the bathrooms to check them every hourly, we're going to have hand sanitizers outside of each gang bathroom. And then we're going to have many more to spread out to the district.
Great.
So that's where we're at with that.
Hey, Mike.
Yeah.
So the refilling these things, is it,
Yeah.
how often do you think you're going to have, let's take, half the students in the building. How often do you think you'll have to refill these things?
I'll be totally honest with you. I don't know. That's why I bought enough to fill each one 5 times. The company that I'm dealing with, Vanessa Research in Connecticut, they make it themselves. And they never ran out the whole year. They never got back ordered like everybody else did. I found this company just through searching online and stuff. And they make 100,000 gallons a month themselves. So I can, when I fill them twice, I'll start ordering again, just not to be behind. But I bought enough to fill each one 5 times.
But it sounds like you're assuming you're not gonna go through 5,
We never
fill.
did before, but this year's a different year, so I'm gonna be totally honest with you. It depends on the kids and what they've been doing at home and if they're gonna sanitize their hands all the time. Like, the ones that are in the buildings now, we have people in the buildings. We've changed a few of them already this year. We've only, actually, we've changed 2 of them already that have been in since May. Or, yeah, May.
I would just go back and take a look and say, let's say they rip through 5 in a day. How long would it take you to get them? And just back that up so that you've got stuff on order or being delivered before
Oh, yeah.
like I say, if the kids go wild with this stuff, and the teachers and the staff and everybody else, I'd hate to see us end up running out and
We'll
then,
never,
try to get, because some of these companies, their supply chains change at the drop of a hat anymore. So let's just be careful with it,
I will. I mean, if I see that I gotta change them in 2 weeks, then I'm gonna just order more now. I mean, it's hard to store this stuff. You have to store it in 5 cabinets because it's alcohol. We have one room where it's all concrete. There's nothing in it. And I asked BOCES if it was okay to store it in there. There's nothing else in the room. And there's no equipment in the room, nothing. It's just a concrete, it's like a vault. And that's where we have it stored now with
Okay.
the PPE stuff. So, I mean, enough to fill them all 5 times. You'd have to use it all day long, every day, I would think, to empty it in a week or so. So, I mean, if I see that it goes in a week, then I'll just order more. But I'm thinking 5 times is gonna last a long time.
Okay.
Mike, can you also talk about the bottles that you got and the other sanitizers that you received
Oh,
that's separate
yeah.
and distinct from this?
We have gotten 8 gallons from the state of the New York State hand sanitizer. And to use it in the pump bottles that it came in was kind of messy. So what they did just come out with, and I got some from BOCES, I have enough. I got 200 bottles. We have 171 employees in the district. I got 200 2-ounce spray bottles, and now they already have a label on them because we were looking to buy 2-ounce bottles. And then Brian from BOCES was going to come over and we were going to come up with a label to make us. Everything has to be labeled. But now we got hand sanitizers from the state in 2-ounce bottles. And then we're going to use the state hand sanitizer to refill them every night or however they have to be refilled. Each teacher will have a 2-ounce spray, each employee will have a 2-ounce spray bottle if they need it. And we'll fill them all the time too. And then the hand sanitizer that we're buying now from Vanessa is a liquid also, just like the state one. So if we had to use that, we could use that too, and we'll just get different labels.
Okay.
So a reopening plan, any reopening plan, which includes the installation of dividers in classrooms, libraries, cafeterias, auditoriums, gymnasiums, doors, and other points of congregation, will ensure the submission of a detailed floor plan of the Office of Facilities Planning for review. So that won't apply to us if it becomes true that we're going to use the dividers in the different gymnasiums that we have. Well, specifically the middle school gymnasium, we already have that one installed. So we don't require any submission to the Office of Facilities Planning at this point, with the exception of some floor plans as we move some furniture around. But the other major issues that other school districts are dealing with, we are not.
Hey, Brian, the other rooms, are they just shut down, like the weight room and the sports locker rooms? Are those just shut down until further notice, or are they, if not, who's cleaning them and making sure that those, because like the weight room's got that door that, people have to go in and out to get in there. And a lot of times I've seen it it seems like it's open.
Yeah, so they're locked down right now because nobody's using them, and nobody will be using them through remote learning. And then after that, there'll be some version of some decisions that need to happen with regard to sports. And even at that point, social distancing will have to happen in an appropriate and safe way. Weight rooms, I think we would be frankly challenged to have people in there, or more than it's a very small room. So I think we would have to be creative if that were to happen. So,
Okay.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, no, I can hear you.
Good. Yeah, so and locker rooms, same deal. I'm thinking about the high school locker rooms. They're smaller than the middle school locker rooms. We're gonna have to think about appropriate social distancing if and when we're able to return to sports.
Okay.
Each reopening plan must ensure that all new building construction and temporary quarter projects will be submitted to the Office of Facilities Planning for a full code review. Once again, these are assurances that we have to make and promises that we're making, but this isn't going to be something that applies to Millbrook. Any reopening plan that includes new facilities for leasing also doesn't right now apply to Millbrook. Reopening plan that includes the temporary or permanent use of tents must provide plans adhering to a building code of New York State. So right now, we're not planning on using tents. We don't feel like we need to do that. That's not part of our reopening plan. But if it becomes true that as we reconsider and we need tents, then we'll be in touch. We'll make sure that they anything that we do with regard to tents does comply with the building code of New York State, and we'll be in touch with facilities planning. Any reopening plan must ensure that existing or altered number of toilets and sink fixtures must meet the minimum standards for the building code of New York State. So we will be seeking to retrofit some of our fixtures with some version of touchless flushometers, and Mike is going to talk to that.
So our buildings on this line, for this one here, our buildings are less than full, even when they're full. We're going to have half the students here, and 2/3 of all the fixtures will be usable. So we have more than enough to be code. We're plenty more than enough. And then out of those 2/3, those are all gonna be changed over. There's gonna be 9 classrooms and bathrooms and sink faucets at Elm. Then the gang bathrooms at Alden and the teachers' bathrooms, the gang bathrooms at the middle school and the teachers' bathrooms, and the gang bathrooms at the high school and the teachers' bathrooms are all gonna get the touchless faucets and the touchless flushometers. They're on order. We ordered them. They'll be here in a couple of weeks. I got about 2.5 more weeks, and then we'll get them right in. And then after we get the initial group in, then we'll see what we're going to do after that, if we can do more later. But we're getting, we'll have more than enough fixtures in use for school.
So 2/3 of basically the capacity of each bathroom will be touchless.
Probably, yeah. The only thing that's not going to be is in the men's room, 2 urinals, and all the gang bathrooms, 1 sink. Won't be done at the beginning because of social distancing.
Because we have social distancing in place.
Because we have to block those sinks off and those urinals off. The toilets, we don't have to block off because they have walls. But the urinals, we're blocking every other one off. They still won't be the full 6 feet, but students will be masked in the bathrooms and in the hallways. So we can block every other one off, and the middle sinks in each bathroom we're blocking off.
So where we wanted to be with this was being responsible about giving students and staff the opportunity to use touchless fixtures, But not doing every single one. Listen, it's not going to be too far off here before we're doing significant building projects, and we're going to be ripping out gang bathrooms that are from the 60s. So we wanted to be responsible and safe, but also be responsible on the other side of that, and not do every single one that we're going to be ripping out in 2-3 years and throwing good money after bad. So Mike was able to put together a plan that changes out many, and in fact most, and keep our areas safe and still be responsible in that way.
So it's there. I know you said you're shutting every other urinal and basically sinks, but what about the number of kids? I assume the number of kids in the bathroom at any given time is restricted.
We're gonna have only 2 kids in a bathroom at a time.
Is there? And I mean, I sort of know the answer, I hope, but is there? How are we going to monitor or control that? Or I mean, I don't even know if we can do that.
Yeah. So one of the things that will be, so that's going to be a building level opportunity to be able to control that. So as an example, it may be, and I'm just going to throw out one example, it may be true that that's going to be managed, and before Johnny leaves for the bathroom, either there's going to be a hallway monitor in there that's going to be patrolling, not in the bathroom because that would be a little uncomfortable, but certainly in the hallway, and just keeping track of who's in there, and we'll have our 6-foot stickers out, and people would line up, but that it may become true as an example. So maybe a principal says, you know what, that's something I want coordinated out of the office. And if you have a student who needs to use the restroom, please call the office and we'll let you know if there's a spot available. That while that wouldn't necessarily be the most efficient way, if that was a one way that a principal wanted to handle that, then that would make sure that we're ensuring the safety of the kids in there.
Is Caroline on board with her principals handling that? I only see something's wrong with my number of people. I only see like 4 people on here.
Roll over.
Caroline, are you on?
No.
No?
No.
Oh, okay. All right. Now I'm just curious. I mean, want to make sure that, we're not loading them from both sides.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well,
Can I-
okay, I'm sorry.
So I'm sorry, Mike, go ahead.
So students will be using the bathroom in their own classroom, so the there's only one person per bathroom. At Alden, there's a bathroom in each wing, so it won't be too bad, if there's a monitor or something. And then outside the bathrooms at Alden, the middle school and the high school, every 6.5 feet, there's a social distancing strip that says, 6 foot, keep your social distance. We did it 6.5 feet just so, I don't know, to make it easier, because you're going to be standing on it to give you the 6 foot in between. So outside the bathrooms, there'll be the strips on the floor where people will know to wait. And I guess, it'll be up, that'll be like Brian said, that'll be an in-building thing.
Okay.
Yeah, there are just too many different nuances based on age level. So it's really the best for the principal to be making decisions with their staff around how to best manage something like that. We put out the general terms, and then administratively they figure out how they're going to comply and be consistent with it.
Hey, Brian, did they give you like a threshold? Like, well, if you have 3 sinks in a bathroom, 2 of them have to be touchless and 1 doesn't. Do they give you like a set thing that you have to meet as a school? Or are we just trying to do like our own?
We're doing our
Yeah,
own.
so we're doing our own. So what I would say is there is no requirement at all that anything be touchless.
Okay.
So we're doing training about how kids need to wash their hands appropriately, how they should be social distancing, how they should be wearing masks while they're in the bathroom. All that training is going to exist. There's no requirement, and I don't know how many schools are out there that are choosing to switch anything out. We're choosing to do it just to be proactive, but there's no there's no threshold, there's no request, but if it were true that we were going to alter sinks and toilets and fixtures, we just have to make sure that we do that in accordance with the building code of New York State.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, sure.
And the drinking fountains, or did we not get there yet?
Yep,
That's the next
yep, you're good segue.
But
So thanks for that.
The bottles, those bottle fillers.
Yep.
They're all, so what about, are we replacing the fountains with those or?
Yep, so each reopening plan needs to ensure that there's one drinking fountain for every 100 occupants. And provide a written plan, if you can't do that, for how we're going to have an alternate source of drinking water. So in all of our instances, we have enough water fountains to be able to have 1 to 100 based on just the filling stations. We have at least one filling station in every building, and we've disabled all of the actual bubblers. And Mike has even gone so far, Mike, not to steal your thunder, but he's been proactive enough to be in contact with vendors to change out some of the bubblers in favor of filling stations, even though we're already compliant at that 1 per 100.
Right.
So the majority of the kids, do they, I mean, do they carry water bottles, like, refillable water bottles with them, or do the majority just drink from the fountains? I mean,
Tom, do you want to talk to that a little bit?
Yeah, I could say that I'd say the majority of the kids, well, it's probably half and half. Half carry a regular water bottle and refill it as necessary, and the others have a steel water bottle that they, they have a plastic one or a steel one that they refill. So
Okay.
They use them.
All right.
Is that true, Elm? Is that true of Elm also?
Spencer's. Oh, I'm sorry.
I don't know.
Yeah,
Go ahead, Tom.
I would think that Elm does have the same situation going, because their parents are packing those lunches as well and putting those bottles in there for those guys. I would think the majority of them do, but didn't Elm, did the new, in the building project after the mold, did they replace the sinks with drinking fountains in those classrooms or not?
No.
Okay.
No drinking
So
fountain,
then-
same as we did yours. No drinking fountain.
So in our building, I think that forced the kids to utilize that more,
Right.
in their own bottles. So.
And one of the things that may even be fun is we have partners all over, whether it be the PTO or the Millbrook Educational Foundation. If we were to think about what an exciting return to school gift might be, that I'm sure we could work with our partners, and not to volunteer anybody, but I'm sure we would be able to find an organization that might be willing to purchase water bottles for our students, to be able to that were kind of uniform, and they could put their names on it, and everybody would be able to stay hydrated.
Yep. Okay.
So each reopening plan must provide written plans on that was my mouse, on how to maintain adequate code required ventilation as designed. So Mike, would you like to talk a little bit about, and John Evans, you'll know that John is a little familiar looking. He helped us out when we had our mold issues. He was our industrial hygienist during that time. He did a presentation for the board to help us figure out where we needed to go. So there's going to be some version of a tag team here between Mike and John, and the ability to, Mike will talk about everything that we have planned, and John will help with any questions that the board may have with regard to code required ventilation.
Okay, so first of all the units have been cleaned, oiled, checked, everything's working. The first thing we're doing is we use a MERV 8 filter. We're going to a MERV 11, which is recommended, and we can go to an 11. We really can't go any more than that. From what I understand, the 11 is as much as we can go with our units. We're also going to open the outside air, normal outside air, the minimum closed damper. That's what we set, the minimum. As the room warms up in the wintertime, the outside damper opens automatically. So all we said is the minimum amount of airflow, which is normally 15%, and we're gonna make it 25. And this way we're bringing more fresh air in. And as the room warms up in the wintertime or in the fall, it'll be open more than that anyway. But we just set the minimum damper side, you know. So we're gonna set them to 25, and we're gonna check them. We were gonna check them monthly, but from talking to the filter company today, we're gonna check them weekly for flow to see how long it takes for the flow to slow down with the MERV 11 filters. We have on order enough filters to change the filters twice. And if I have to change them right away soon, which I doubt, but if it seems like we have to change them sooner than we thought, we'll just order another set right away. But I bought a ABM 200, which is an airflow gauge. So we'll be able to check the airflow when we put the filters in, and we can go through every week and just take a note of the airflow to see when the filters have to be changed, instead of trying to guess at it. So that's where I'm at with filters and airflow.
Are people going to be encouraged to be playing around with the opening windows and stuff?
Yeah, we can open windows. What we're doing with the windows is Elm, the windows, except the escape windows all open all the way, which everybody knows. But the other windows at Elm and Alden, there's hoppers. And Elm in the middle school, there's hoppers. And some part of Elm has sliding windows. So what we're gonna do with the sliding windows at Elm and Alden has sliding windows in one wing too, is we're gonna cut 1 by 1 pieces of wood and lay it in the tracks. So the window can only be open 10 inches. This way, those windows can be open. At the middle school, at the high school, the windows, not the escape windows, but the regular windows have a stop on them. So they only open a certain amount. The middle school has hoppers in all the windows. Elm and Alden have half and half. So the sliding to the side windows, we're gonna put little pieces of 1 by, so nobody can open if the window's open, nobody can open it from outside to get in. So that's what we're gonna do with the windows. This way teachers can open the windows. Some of the classrooms at Alden already have that because some of the teachers requested it, but now we're gonna do it to all of them because everybody's gonna be more likely to wanna open windows in the fall.
Mike, what about the quarantine rooms with the negative airflow ventilation? How is that coming along?
Okay, so I got 2 negative air machines for each quarantine room. One to put in the room that gets piped to the window. I know which room it's gonna be at Alden. I talked to the principals. I just need to get to nail down exactly which room we're gonna use, probably be by Friday, to nail down exactly what room we're gonna use here. And Elm and to middle school and the high school. And then 1 unit gets piped to the window, you know, permanently, so it sucks the air out of the room. And then 1 unit with a HEPA filter will sit outside the door in case anybody opens the door. This way, nothing comes out into the hallway. It sucks it right into the HEPA filter.
Is that a timely process to do once you decide on the rooms?
No,
Do you have them in place? Do you have the fill? Do you have the?
I have everything.
Do?
Yep, I have everything here. Came the other day, actually.
Okay.
So I opened one up, looked at it. It's a 10-inch pipe right to the window. And we just got to cut plywood with a 10-inch hole in it and lock the window open, you know, 12 inches open, put a piece of plywood in the window with a 10-inch hole and screw everything together. It won't take long to do it all.
So Mike, you know, I'm interested in this balance of, you know, safety and energy efficiency and you know, of course, the need for ventilation. So there's but humans are humans, and you know, somebody opens up a window, then goes home, and it's open for 6 hours and 0 degrees out. So how's this going to be dealt with?
Same way it's dealt with every year in regular school. People open windows sometimes all the time. My night guys have to check all the windows every night.
Okay.
You know, people open windows. Some people open windows all year long. Some people are hot.
That's correct.
Some people are cold all year long. You
And
know.
some rooms are different.
Yeah. So we have to check the windows every night anyway. So that's neither here nor, you know,
So,
change.
obviously our heating budget's going to be,
Our heating budget, like I said, the minimum air is gonna go from 15 to 25 cent. It's gonna make a difference in the heating season.
Right, plus the windows being
We're gonna
open.
burn more fuel oil, but I mean, it's a safety
Mhm.
concern, so we have to do it.
So so windows open will be, sounds like they'll be they will all be limited, or some you can't limit and they'll just.
No, the ones that aren't limited, we can limit. The hoppers, we don't have to limit because nobody can get into them.
Okay.
Those are the ones that open out,
Mhm.
like at Alden and Elm, the small windows. I mean, middle school, the bottom window that opens out, nobody can get into there.
Okay.
So that's a different safety thing that we're doing. So nobody can open the window from outside and climb in during the day. At night, all the windows will be closed.
Okay.
My night guys will close all the windows.
And Brian's demonstrating in the back if you have.
Playing Vanna.
Oh, okay. I didn't see that.
Mike, also for ventilation, is there a new rule about being able to keep our hallway doors open, which is in conflict with safety?
It's in conflict, right? The rule was always that you could keep the door open if you want, if it didn't have a closure. You cannot hold the door open. And what we did a few years ago, after we had the mold problem, we took the door closures off so the doors could stay open on their own. It's against the law to put any kind of a block or a rope or anything to open doors. Now with the new rule now, you really want the doors closed during the day when you're teaching or whatever, for noise and for fire or whatever. Now with the new SED says you can have the doors open during the day. We had taken our closures out a couple of years ago so we could leave them open at night and on the weekends with the fans running in the hallways. So we're compliant with that. So we're fine with that. So,
And you'll recall, actually, the Board of Ed, if I remember correctly, passed a resolution. So SED allowed us to, I want to say it was fire code. That there was a suspension of fire code, but it had to be approved by your Board of Education. And I believe you did that last year. You approved that resolution, and we have the ability to leave doors open and suspend any other safety code that was part of that for the so people weren't touching handles. So now we can have appropriate airflow and things like that. I think you did that sometime mid last year.
And we didn't have any problem with like the noise levels in classrooms disrupting other ones or anything?
No, on a regular basis, the music room is the door is open and everybody, it just deals.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Nope.
Okay, so reopening plans must ensure that project submissions. So again, this doesn't apply to us, but if we needed to do some version of a facilities project for the purpose of reopening due to COVID, we would have to make sure that we would label it as such. Each of our reopening plans that includes the use of plastic separators must comply with the 2020 BCNYS section 2606. And that building code of New York State, Mike has some information about that and some changes that were made. Formerly, it was thought that you could use one type of material, and they've changed that. So Mike, you want to talk about that?
So originally, everybody was going to use plexiglass to make barriers between like main office desks and people coming to talk to people, like, I don't know what you'd call them. So what we did was we had ours on order, and then midway through the order, before we got it, because everybody ordered at the same time, the state changed it to, the state brought it to our attention that it wouldn't pass fire code. So we ordered all polycarbon. So all our dividers and all the main offices and the business office are made out of 3/16 polycarbon, and that is fire code. So they're all past fire code. What we did was we hung some pieces from the ceilings in front of desks. We did it in front of the main desks, And then we put another one where they can pass papers on there where people sign in and everything. And the business office and the middle school and all the main offices have polycarbonate hanging in front of the desk. So they don't have, and then also in the middle school and the high school, it's in front of the big round thing when you come in, and we put it in front of the 2 desks in the main office. And also we have at the middle school in Alden, we have the bank teller windows, if that's what you want to call them. You know, we have those for people to talk to them also. So we're in pretty good shape there. Nobody's asked me. I think Tom wants one in his office, which we still have some left. We're going to do that, but nobody else has asked for anything extra. If they do, we can do it. We have some left over.
Mike, what's the cleaning schedule on those look like? I mean, you know, restaurant sneeze guards are not the most.
Yeah, that's what you'd basically call them. I guess when they clean the rooms, they'll clean them with, we have to use a plastic cleaner so we don't scratch them up.
I would think that they're going to take, I mean, just I happened to see the one in Elm, and I was amazed at how much
It gets,
plastic there was there. I would think
Well,
that's going to add a lot to their cleaning schedules.
yeah, but it's better too much than not, you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, no, I'm, you know, we're talking about trying to get multiple reviews of the bathrooms per day, per night. You know, they gotta clean
Well,
that stuff. They gotta do the extra rooms.
See, that was why we wanted to take all the desks out of the classrooms, and they gave us a storage room in each building. They gave us whatever storage we needed, because by taking the desks, have you seen any of the pictures of the classrooms?
Yeah.
If you look at the classrooms now, when you walk in a classroom, the floor is easy to clean because there's only 11. It makes a really big difference when you walk in a room with 11 desks and you walk in a room with 24 desks. Now, the 11 desks are going to be used. Those 11 desks get cleaned. Even if 11 kids were in a classroom with 24 desks, you have to clean all 24 because you don't know who touched what. So the rooms will be a lot easier to clean. The touch areas will be easier to clean. The center of the rooms are empty. Everything's around the outside of the rooms. Whatever was in the room that, like bookshelves at Alden and stuff, everything was labeled and put into a room where people can go to get whatever they need. And the bookshelves will have their room number on it, so the teachers don't have to go crazy. Everything was moved to a central location in each building, and the rooms are more, there's a picture of the high school room now. You walk in the room, it's easy to clean the floor. You're only cleaning 11 desks. You're kind of in and out of the room in less time. After they go in and clean the room and sanitize everything, then we have electrostatic sprayers, which will take about a minute to do each room. Those are, okay. And the rooms will be a lot easier to clean, so we'll be able to spend more time on the extra thing, the polycarbon, the bathrooms. The bathrooms are going to be cleaned all day long. I made a log today. Carol just came back from vacation today. I sent her a rough draft of a log hourly every day, with all the list of all the fixtures and everything in the bathrooms. This way we'll know when the bathrooms are cleaned during the day, how many times a day they were cleaned. Whether it's not going to be every hour, but it may be every 2 hours. It'll be marked on the sheet who did it, and initials will be put on there. Who did it.
And that the day that was on the original hybrid schedule, that Wednesday deep clean,
Right.
What was that gonna, or what is that intended to be that you're not already doing?
Because originally we weren't sure if we were going to be able to empty the rooms. And I mean, those days we can spend more time, because that'll be a whole day of cleaning for my day guy and my night guys. So we can wash walls down in the bathrooms that we might not get to do all during the week. You know, some of the spots, we're going to do paper towel dispensers. I mean, I made a list, paper towel dispensers, toilets and urinals, toilet and urinal handles, stall locks, sinks and faucets, light switches, paper towel dispensers, mop the floor, mirrors, and doorknobs. That's going to be on the hourly list, and they're all not going to get done every hour, but everything's going to be, I'm going to have my 2 floaters will be going from building to building when we go to the hybrid, and they'll be going just to go to bathrooms and, you know, checking things as we go all day long. And we'll know exactly how many times a day they got cleaned.
And so you're also gonna, like, the bathrooms are gonna be hit every day with that spray.
That'll be after school, right? I have an
Right.
after school list too.
And
Yeah, we can't do that during the day.
right, and all the classrooms will get hit. How
Yep.
about the offices? Is everything
The officers will get sprayed. Everything is gonna be sprayed every night.
so everything any place that any person goes?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. And right now in the buildings, we have people signing in to let us know where they're going, so my guys know where to clean.
And it'll be some version of the disinfectant with disinfecting with the sprayer or the UV ray machine.
Right. Like the other day, we had a meeting for the bus people in the auditorium, and those seats are cloth. So what we did was we have a UV light. We brought it down there, and you turn it on, and it shuts itself off in 15 minutes. So in 20 minutes or whenever you not doing anything, you go down, you move it up a few rows. So we moved it up each aisle. So it took the day to do it, but they weren't really in there doing it. They go down there, they put the light on, he hits the on button, he leaves. He comes upstairs. They were doing the second floor hallway, actually. 20 minutes or a half hour, whenever they think of it, they go back down, they move the light up a few rows, hit the button, go back to doing what they're doing. So the UV lighting for the cloth seats, if we have something going on in the auditorium at the high school, you really can't sanitize cloth seats. You can do the armrests with cleaner, you can do everything, but you really can't scrub cloth seats. So we have the UV light, and that'll help us. That'll help us with that, and that'll help us with not having to spray the keyboards and computers every single day.
So do we think that our current staff can definitely handle this, or is there a need to hire additional staff just because, that's just to encompass the, especially like when the kids do go back, whether it's hybrid or even if they, like if we did hire more staff to help, would that get more kids back to school quicker kind of thing?
Be honest with you, I don't think so. I think that we're okay because don't forget at the end of last year, my guys had to do everything every night. I mean, they worked hard. It was tough, but before school got canceled or whatever,
Shut down,
before it went to hybrid. I mean, before it went to virtual, when the kids were still in school and all this started, my guys were doing it. I have cleaning lists from last year. We were trying to do everything every night. So now the classrooms have less in it. There's going to be less people at the beginning. So I don't think at the beginning when we're doing the hybrid, I think we'll be okay. I have 2 extra people during the day that are going to go through the buildings, and one person's going to be assigned 2 buildings, and all they're going to do is walk through and clean.
Mike, what do you do if you're down 2 or 3 guys?
Bring in subs,
Okay.
you
And where
have-
we're at now, we're in a spot, so like, obviously the cafeteria is not gonna have to be cleaned
Right.
for after having a couple hundred kids in there as an example. But it'll still have to be cleaned after preparations and
Right,
things
but then
like
you have
that.
Individual classrooms that get dirty, right?
Yes, yep, that's exactly right. So, and a lot of this is gonna be also monitoring and adjusting. So Mike has a good feel for what he thinks he is gonna not have to get done anymore, where he's gonna be able to repurpose his people. And however, he has already made a commitment that this is gonna be about the safety of our students and staff. So if we have to hire more, then that's what we're gonna do.
Yeah, I don't want
One
to
of
see
the
these guys being run ragged. And I mean, that just sounds like a lot of work. So I just want to make sure we're not putting too much on their shoulders.
Well, the other side of it too is, we got to keep in mind, why would we ever want to go back, especially during cold and flu season? Why would we ever want to go back to sort of our old model? I know we'll have more desks in the thing, but we should really look at what it's going to take to do this, and have a longer term plan so that, when all the kids are back, and we should be doing the same level of cleaning and disinfecting,
Well, when all the kids are back, I'm thinking we're going to have to bring subs in at night. Because when all the kids come back, they're going to be back full time.
Yeah,
Right.
it's a
Yep.
resource issue, Perry, so.
What's that, huh? What's
It's a
that?
resource issue.
I'm sorry, John, I can't hear.
It's a normal resource
Okay,
planning issue.
Okay.
If you want to do everything, it takes money and resources.
yeah, no, I got you. I think we should start sizing it out.
Well, this year we're going to do what we have to do. Other
Yeah.
out years, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I think even when we go back full-time, the extra bookshelves and all the extra stuff from the classrooms are gonna stay where we have them set up now. And more desks will go in the room, but not anything else right away.
Yeah.
I think I don't wanna say clutter, but I don't think that everything is gonna go back in the room for a long time. You know, because you have to when we go back, doesn't mean everything's over. We still got to take care of everything and clean everything and disinfect everything. So I'm thinking that the only difference is going to be when we go back full time is another maybe 12 desks in the classroom. Not all the extra bookshelves and all the extras. That's what's going to take the time that's what's going to, make it a lot worse. That's my thought.
Thank you.
Excuse me.
All right. So that concludes all of the assurances that we had to be able to make and we talked about obviously what we're doing to make sure that we met those assurances. And there were still some other questions, I believe. So let me just get to those also.
So while he does that, Mike, so what is the status of the field, of the athletic fields? I mean, are those
The fields have been taken care of.
okay? No, I didn't mean like mowed. I meant like, are we?
No, I
clean-
mean, we're not ignoring them,
That's just-
they're closed right now.
Right.
And the playgrounds are closed right now.
Yeah.
And believe it or not, nobody's been on them. Nobody's been on the playgrounds anyway. People still walk
Yeah,
up to the fields. We gotta tell them it's closed.
No, I was just thinking at some point, especially given Governor Cuomo's directive to deal with sports, we're going to have to open that field. And, I'm assuming the gates will need to be disinfected. The
gates, the bleachers,
Yeah.
I bought a sprayer for the fields.
Okay, so like just a giant sprayer?
No. I bought a sprayer for
For the
bleachers, for all the touch areas.
Okay,
This way they don't have to take it out of the building. We had bought a sprayer for the fields, not for the fields, for the playgrounds and for the, what we did last year before school went virtual, we bought a pump sprayer and we went out there a couple of times. I had my guys go out a couple of times a day and just spray everything down when nobody was out there, when the playgrounds are open. We haven't done it since the playgrounds have been closed, but when the playgrounds do open, instead of using a pump sprayer, which even is more, I don't want to say more wetter. It's more liquidy than the mister. We'll go out there with the misters, and it'll be less. We'd be able to do it better like that with the misters, or we can use a pump sprayer if we had to. On the field itself, there's really, I don't know that there's anything we can do.
yeah, well, I mean, hopefully they're not rolling around on the field,
Right.
but
Yeah, I don't think that kind of sports is going to be back for a little while. I think it's going to be on your feet.
anyway, yeah, no, I just, before we start thinking about that, I wanted to make sure that they were. that
The
they-
baseball fields have been dragged and cleaned, and actually they were just dragged the day before yesterday. Everything up there is garbage is, everything's been checked and everything, grass has been cut. The fields are ready to be used at any time.
Are we planning on?
Nobody's going up this, excuse me?
Are we planning on unlocking the fields at the start of school, or what? Do we have a plan with that as of yet? I don't know if Laura or Brian or whoever that question's for.
You haven't
So
discussed it yet. Oh, go ahead.
I don't know as though any of the guidance has changed just yet. We're staying true to the guidance that we received from the high school athletic association. So I know that's going to change on September 21st. We do know that, but as of right now, nothing changed from their original guidance. So we weren't planning on it.
Okay.
So there was a question about HVAC systems and that they should be cleaned and filtered to the maximum level possible in order to ensure student and staff well-being. And we should talk about and have a plan to ensure fresh air exchange, as we mentioned in the reentry plan. So as Mike talked about pretty well, we have those MERV 11 filters that we're going to continue and just do what we have to do about balancing the airflow with the whatever particles we're able to capture in that higher density filter. And in a second, I'm going to turn it over to John so I can stop talking about things that I'm not an expert on. But we talked about how we already increased the air from 15 to 25% by setting the minimum open damper. And obviously we've already cleaned and vacuumed and oiled all of our univents. So John, do you have anything else to share about where where we currently are and maybe even others?
Well, thank you very much, Brian. When coronavirus was sort of changing the way our world was in early March, I was a participant in a couple conference calls with you and the staff of the district. And early on, it was, okay, how are we going to respond to the problems that are being presented that nobody has ever had to deal with before? I mean, prior to January, really, nobody, even in the American science field, was even taking coronavirus seriously. But you developed some goals, and those goals, I think, have brought you to where you are now. Are your students and staff healthy as they're entering the building? So how are you going to determine that? Well, first of all, the first goal obviously is self-reporting. If you're sick, don't come to school. If your kid is sick, don't send them to school. If you've been sick, don't send your child to school. As long as those rules are socially followed, there hopefully will be a good level of compliance there. Once the children and the staff are in your buildings, are the children and staff and your infrequent visitors that you have to the district office, are they safe? Have they been scanned? Have they been put through the least restrictive means possible to have them go about their day in this new society and social area that we live in? And the third issue is the building clean? To a reasonable degree of scientific certainty, using the available resources that the district has, is the building clean? And through our conversations with your office and Mr. Ragusa's office, I think the Air Guys has helped the district come up with a plan that is pretty robust as it relates to infection control. The district is not a healthcare facility, but you have an obligation to present clean, sanitary buildings. And although the Millbrook School District mission statement doesn't include safety and cleanliness as one of the goals in the mission statement, it does speak to the ability of putting students in a position that they're ready to take on an ever-changing world. And an ever-changing world is really what we're in right now. And I think that we're leading by example. Mr. Ragusa has done a lot of work with the filtration analysis. The reason that you guys are not going to a more stringent filtration media is because, frankly, you would be overtaxing the motor of the HVAC system. They frankly were not designed for anything greater than a MERV 11. And we went through that. A lot of people have heard about this MERV rating. And it's important to recognize that MERV rating, it was put forward by a trade group that was in the business of selling air filters. And so obviously there's take it with a grain of salt there when they talk about the different rating involved, but that's not the only thing that is being done. There is going to be cleaning with a list. There's going to be electrostatic cleaning, especially for the high touch surfaces, ultraviolet C-band light. And that's going to render pretty much the entirety of your daily use campus rooms and buildings to a degree of cleanliness that I think is achievable with the amount of labor that you have available to you, even with using some subs. As long as the compliance is transparent and the staff that Mr. Ragusa puts forth to keep the buildings clean and sanitary understand and acknowledge what the high touch surfaces are, what the things we need to clean are, I think you're going to be in quite good shape. I'm very pleased to hear that Mr. Ragusa has purchased an airflow depression measurement device. That's going to show how effective or ineffective the new MERV 11 filters are going to be. And I think that with the coupling of all of these issues, social distancing, mask compliance, constant washing of hands, cleanliness of high touch surfaces, end of the day cleaning for all those high touch surfaces, and ultraviolet C-band disinfection, and we've put in MERV 11 filters. I think any reasonable person would say that the district has done everything that could be reasonably done to prepare for the unknown that we have ahead.
Hey, Mike, how are the cleaners going to be sort of working as, like a buddy system to make sure, that one makes sure the other one hits all the surfaces? I mean, when you start really hustling these guys through, because, we've given them too much to do, you don't want them, missing half a surface or whatever. So do they clean that way, like in buddy packs or something?
No, each person has a section. And because if you do the buddy system, then nobody's really held accountable. I have lists like the end of last year when school was still in session, I came up with a disinfectant list for the classrooms and everybody had to sign off on everything they did every night. This way, God forbid anybody would have gotten sick, I could have went back and looked up the rooms and whatever. I want everybody to be responsible and sign off their own, if you have 3 people cleaning a room and something doesn't get done,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
But then
And one of the things that we're doing
Said-
also is we're going to be changing the hours a little bit. So our
Yeah.
Mike's second in command is going to be doing some nighttime supervision hours as well. So that's going to, and that's really where it should be. The supervision should be in the hands of the supervisor who can hold people accountable. And listen, we have every reason to believe that our custodians are going to continue to do the great job that they always do. But supervision is important in with anything. So we'll have a supervisor at night sometimes, and that'll be intermittent.
Okay, so that's your verify is it John? Is that the guy?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so John's the verify. Okay.
And also, I think that when people are not accountable, but when people, they take a little more pride in their work too, when they're working and they're signing off on stuff. Some of my guys take a lot more pride in signing off that they did something rather than working with a group.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. I don't think your guys are going to slack off or are slacking off. It's
No.
more of, as you're going through the night, the eyes start getting droopy and next thing, you miss a spot. And it's one thing if it's just, a mess, but if it's, COVID germs sitting there, you just can't
Yeah.
have it missed. That's, so, I mean, it's good that at least you got John, following, looking, making sure everybody's on task. And okay.
What
And
was
also-
the decision?
okay.
What was, it was a different question, so if you have something else to add, go ahead.
Okay.
I was just going to ask, what was the decision on, as far as I know, at one point we discussed the facilities crew, maintenance crew delivering lunches to the classrooms. Has that been discussed at all as far as who's going to be doing that? Or is that, I don't know if we've made any decisions on that.
I've talked to Holly and at this point, we don't know exactly how we're doing it, but I told her whatever we need to do, we'll help her with. I can help her with.
Yeah, so that hasn't been finalized, but in any case, I can tell you right now, Chris, that's going to be a collaborative effort between our staff and the facility staff and the kitchen staff. That's just the way it's going to have to happen in order to be able to get the job done, and it will happen that way.
But you've got that all figured into your cleaning schedule, Mike?
Will be, as soon as we know because it's gonna have, like I said, I'll have extra people. I got other people too I can bring in if I need to.
And from the air guys, did any idea, I mean, like, a percentage, what changing the outside air flow would do? I mean, is it like a 1% bump to our
No.
fuel usage, or nothing really? Or,
You're going from 15% to 25%. If you're increasing your outside airflow by 10%, we're increasing it by 66% because 25% is, 2/3 greater than 15. Are you going to use that much more oil? Absolutely not. I think that Mr. Ragusa is being prudent in adding that amount, but if I had to eyeball it based on the amount of fuel usage you've had previously and increasing this outdoor air, I think it's going to be negligible at best when compared to the other resources you've had to expend to respond to the pandemic.
okay, good. That's what I was looking for.
Okay, any other questions on HVAC systems? Okay.
Yeah, do we, is Elm the only school we haven't done any ventilation improvements to in quite a long time?
Yes, yes.
So is Elm's ventilation up to snuff compared with the others? Or,
Elm's ventilation, we had to manually open the dampers a little more.
okay, so there's sufficient.
It's not done through a computer.
It's just a chat. We don't have the building management system that we would prefer to be able to have at Elm Drive.
Right.
So it requires additional effort to get where we need to
Right.
be, but still doable.
But you also did all the exhaust fans last year, didn't you, Mike?
We just went through every one again in the last 3 weeks. One of them needed a switch, one of them needed a motor. Every single exhaust fan, we just actually finished yesterday. Every single exhaust fan in the district is working right now.
Okay.
We have to do them more than once a year because some of them are really old. Like we just changed 3 motors and a switch in the last 3 weeks. So, and we just had checked them in May. We went through everything in May, and then we just had to check them again because they've been running 24/7 now.
Okay.
So
What about all these one-off, there's a few places where there's window air conditioners. There's that one in the teacher's lounge that sits on the shelf. You got the one in Caroline's office about to fall on the ground. And even the split units, do we have to do anything special with those guys to make sure they're clean?
we vacuum them out and we vacuum the filters. Those have foam filters that you vacuum. You can't really change the filters on them. Those have foam filters that you just vacuum out and put back in.
So do you use that sprayer on those units, or you can't do that?
No, we use the sprayer on touch areas. Like that, spraying the unit isn't going to do anything because the unit's up in the ceiling. You spray the disinfectant spray. You spray on the desks, and you spray on touch area.
Right. But there's some of those, like even that I think it's in the teacher's lounge, where it's like a floor standing air conditioner. There's that, like I said, there's the window air conditioners that are just sitting there. Yeah, I know
Right.
split units are up on top, but like where there's
Well, the knobs will be disinfected and everything, and those will get sprayed when the room gets sprayed.
no, that's what I mean. All right.
They're up. They're not going to spray up. They're going to spray out.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
And then run it, I assume, to make sure it goes through it.
Yeah, they'll run them.
Okay.
They'll be running. I'm sure they'll be running when the guys come in the rooms, when the teachers are using them.
All right.
Okay. So the next one says bathrooms should be optimized for safety and cleanliness. So we talked about that. Listen, Mike did a good job of touching on a lot of this stuff. So we'll just share with you approximately 40 faucets and 40 toilets and 12 urinals will have been changed out in terms of touchless. There's an in-house replacement that we're going to be doing, and we're going to be getting help from BOCES Shared Maintenance as well. We already have in place the touchless paper dispensers, and the touchless sanitizers will be outside of each bathroom.
Brian, what's the BOCES? What did you say that was?
Yeah, BOCES Shared Maintenance. So every year for Oh, well, geez. Well, for as long as I've been here, I think.
Yeah, 15, as long as I've been here.
Okay. We contract with BOCES, and so we're small here. We're a small shop, so we use BOCES and we pay them on an hourly basis, and it's also reimbursable. They do come and they do stuff for us. They change fan belts for us. They do electric. They'll build partition walls for us. They'll do drop ceilings for
They
us. And
swap out these valves and swap out the sink things and all that.
Right, right.
yep. So we'll be using them again to assist with some of this change out.
Okay.
Rooms, especially in the lower grade, should be clearly marked as to desk locations, walking path, etc.
Yeah, that's what I was
Once
gonna
a
bring up.
student takes their seat, they can, yeah. So yeah, Mike, do you want to talk a little bit about that?
So in all the hallways, we put double yellow lines to keep a shoulder distance away from one way of traffic from the other. At the high school, one staircase will be up, one staircase will be down. There's two lines down the middle of the hallway. There's arrows. There's social distancing lines outside the bathrooms for people that have to wait to get in. And every desk in every building, we've done it at Elm. And then when we mentioned it at the last board meeting, he said you'd like to see it everywhere. So now it's done everywhere. Every desk, the two front legs have a marking, and we went back with a brush with some wax to wax over it so the tape doesn't come up. We use floor tape and mark the two front legs of every desk in every room so the teacher can see if any of the desks have moved during the day, if they, within more than a couple of inches or whatever. And then at night, it actually makes it easier when they clean the rooms. They don't have to measure anything. They just put the desks right back. So all four buildings, the desks, the two front legs are marked. Some of them are in red, some of them are in yellow, depending on how we got the tape because we've been ordering so much stuff. We have yellow lines down all the hallways. We have arrows. I think at Elm we use yellow arrows, Alden red, and the middle school blue. The high school has all one-way signs with one-way arrows on the floor. I don't know, Brian, do you have any pictures that you could show of any of that? And the only hallways that aren't done are the hallways that they'll be all done by this week. They're just the ones that aren't finished being waxed yet. So that's what some of the hallways are looking like.
Now, where do the kids at Elm actually exit the building? Is it that door on the corner by the parking lot?
So the door on the corner, that's outside of the middle school. Each school at the front, at the entrances where the buses are, and the entrances where parent pickup is going to be and parent drop off are going to have lines 6.5 feet apart. So when the students are coming in, they're really not going to be online to come in because with the kiosk, you just put your face in it. You put your face away, you look at it, and you keep walking. So, and then where the parent pickup is, we put lines also, just so the kids will know how far to stay away, and they'll be taking the temperature. The kiosks at Alden, let's say, will be moved from the back door by the bus loop back to the front door. And then the kiosk at Elm right now is going to be in the main office. And then once the bus, I just talked to Mike Sotero today, actually, about what we're going to do with that. We have to add some electric. I added electric to Alden and the middle school where the kiosk goes. I kind of knew where it had to go, but I didn't want to overstep. So I waited for Mike. I talked to him today. Now I know where we're going to add the electric at Elm for the kiosk. So, I don't want to overstep. So I waited for a new principal to come. Last week I talked to him about the one-way and stuff. Today we talked about the main entrances and parent pickup. And then at Alden, we don't know if we're doing parent pickup the same way, but if we do, there's marks every 6 or 7 feet, little squares for the kids to stand in the all-purpose room. If they had to, there's markings there. So we're trying to get everything, all our I's dotted and T's crossed way before we're ready to do anything.
And you mapped out, or not mapped out, measured out like the hallways that say the middle school, when they're going to exit the day, if it's pouring rain outside, you got 20 kids on a bus, about 115, 120 feet long of the line. Is there room in the like down the hallways and up the stairs and to do these lines?
I did outside coming in. I didn't do inside going out, but I can. And I have enough strips to do that. I have the social distancing,
No.
6-foot strips to do that. I can do that. I didn't, to be honest with you, I didn't think about going out. I only thought about coming
Yeah,
in. Mention it, I'll do it.
I do have a concern. I didn't get good answer last week about afternoon bus loading. It just seems like a logistics problem, especially when you have Elm versus Alden, ridership. So
Well, at Elm,
That's what we look
they've
at.
always dismissed classroom at a time. That's the way they've always done it. So maybe, and I don't know.
yeah, but you have to get kids loaded on the bus a certain way. They can't just freely go on a bus.
Yeah, John's right. We haven't figured that out yet. We have a little time to be able to do that.
Yeah.
But we do. You're right that the plan, and it could, what may be that people have an afternoon and a morning assignment. And it looks different. So if they get picked up at Elm Drive first, maybe their seat is in the back. And it just has to be that way. So, but you're right, we have work to do on that.
Kids will be passing by other kids getting off. So
Yep.
Well, I just think that they all need to be really modeled because, if you take the way the kids go to get on the bus in the middle school, you got the kids that are almost running to get there, the kids that are goofing around with their friends, but they might be the first ones that are supposed to get on the bus. And then you got bus after bus after bus. If it's 120 feet per bus, that's a lot of floor space that we got to come up with somehow. And
But we have lines
on
all
days
down
that-
the hill at the middle school.
Yeah, I mean, well,
That
and
doesn't work in inclement weather.
yeah, I mean, if it's
I'll put them in the hallways too now. I'll be honest with you.
Well, it goes without saying that in inclement weather, our dismissal process and our entry process, it's going to take longer. It will, because we're going to want kids coming right in off the bus and not lining up. So that means that they're going to have to probably be led off bus at a time. And it's so there is going to have to be a give to get in terms of instructional time in order to get kids in the building safely and as efficient as we can in inclement weather. So we still have some work to do on that for sure.
So Mike, one last, it's been asked, I don't know how many times, but I want to make sure you're good on what you have, the people, the materials, you don't need us to, bring on anything extra, do anything, like.
I've been doing a lot of research. We have more of the cleaning disinfectant than we used all last year already. I call every week. If anything, like I told you last time, we're going to use it for the whole year. So if I call every week, if something's available, I've been buying it.
Mm-hmm.
Worst comes to worst, we don't use it till June. It's not a problem. It's this year's budget. So I can buy for the whole, I already have more than we used all last year, but we're going to be doing a lot more disinfectant and cleaning. So as it comes in, I don't really want to mix products. So I call EA Morse every week. I call a couple of vendors every week. If they have anything, and the vendors aren't calling anybody to tell them what they have, because then it's like favoritism. So I call every week, whatever they have, I buy.
Yeah, I would just, and maybe you've probably already done this, but, statistically, just get aggressive with the numbers. If you say, I think we'll probably go through 100 masks a day, make it 500 a day to make sure, or make it 200 a day. You know what I mean? Don't try to, save a couple cents or a couple dollars.
No, I'm not.
And then we get stuck out there. And the same thing goes if you need help. I'm, sort of want you to make sure you've got what you need.
I'm pretty confident. I have just about. I know I have everything I need to start school. I know.
Okay.
But we appreciate that
Oh,
very
yes.
much. The support of the board in that
2,700.
way is really, really important. So
Right.
thank you for that. We're going to continue
Yes.
to evaluate. And if we need more staff and we come to you and say that we need it, we're going to know that we have your support on that. And thank you.
Well, and know that, I mean, we appreciate, your guys are the front line on this, Mike. I mean, so we appreciate everything they're doing and will do and all the hard work they're gonna put in. So make sure they understand we get it. Any other questions? We just hit 8:30. Any other questions on facilities?
Mr. Evans, did you have something that you wanted to add in?
Thank you.
Yep.
I appreciate it. I just want to say I have a lot of school districts that have leaned on my company to help them understand and evaluate what they're going to do to respond to this. And I feel very comfortable saying that Millbrook is in the top tier of preparation, of PPE and sanitization acquisition. Mr. Ragusa, he's become sort of a subject matter expert. And it's remarkable. So he's to be applauded because he's ready. And frankly, a lot of his contemporaries are not, and they're getting a little bit stressed out because we're in the first week of September and it's like, we got to go get stuff now. And it's too late and it's not out there. I feel very strongly that Mike and his team are ready.
Thank you for saying that.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's great to hear.
So Mike, you said you're an expert. If I'm not feeling well, can I call you on my cell phone?
$75 a minute.
Hey,
If you want me to be a doctor.
I don't think that's what we call a hero.
He said I'm an expert. He didn't say I'm a doctor.
Well, but it is true. I echo what Perry said too. It just seems like such a lot of work, all the cleaning and everything, and we don't want you guys to get worn out. So, we appreciate all you do, and please, put up a hand as soon as you need something, please.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
So Perry, I just want to jump in here because it seems that we might have some questions with our Q&A, even though a few people were able to ask questions. So I just wanted to jump to YouTube. There was a question and read that one out. It was the only one there. So I just want to get that one if that's okay. This is Brian Monteverdi, and he says special education students can start going to school according to the letter my wife got for our daughter. I don't think we are prepared. Do we have enough PPE? Do we know the burn rate of the PPE?
Uh-oh.
Yeah, so we certainly do have enough PPE. That goes without saying. We have plenty of masks. Mike has purchased gowns. So we have all the PPE that we need. Certainly gloves. We have plenty of gloves. In terms of burn rate, I can't speak to that. And it'll just be a follow-up. If Mike, you don't have an answer to that, we can double check with the vendors from whom we've purchased and get cut sheets on them that speak to burn rate. Does the questioner have an email? Mr. Monteverdi, I think you said?
Yes. No, it's just on YouTube, Brian, and I'm not
Okay,
interacting.
Mr. Monteverdi, if you're hearing us and if we're not able to get an email or contact information, if you could please contact us and let us know, and we'll make sure to get you the information and let you know that we're, with regard to our burn rate, that we're compliant.
Thanks.
Okay.
And that was it.
All right. Very good. Hey, one last sort of general question. Did we get the Q&As out there for the parent meetings and for the one from last week that we didn't get to?
So we're with the fact sheets from the parent meetings, we're going to release in groups. There are about 150 questions. So we're slowly chipping away at them. But at first we thought we were going to just answer them all and release them, but feel it's better just to release them as we have them. So folks know that we're working on them and we'll complete them over time. The ones for the board meeting, the board work sessions, Cheryl schooled me lately, and these are considered BOE meetings. So as typical, those who have questions would submit their name, their address, and their questions. And if we don't take care of them during this live stream, during these BOE work sessions, we have been reaching out them individually to answer their questions. Did I miss anything, Cheryl?
No. Nope.
Should we still be posting those answers just like we would on the parent?
So, and I don't know, Perry, if you want to address that. I don't want to overspeak if you don't want me to, but in a normal meeting, if we were in public session and someone were to ask a question, you would answer that person directly. We wouldn't post that on the website. And so my feel is we are in a public meeting, public session, and that we should handle those questions as we normally would by getting back to that person. So if we were in session and we had someone who asked a question and we just didn't know the answer, we would respond to that person.
Can we,
So,
Cheryl, can we ask Julie if, because these are also special Board of Ed meetings, they're not, you know, our regularly scheduled meetings, to see if they're, because, you know, if I'm a parent and I'm on the call and I see somebody ask my question, I'm not going to put it in there as well. You know, and we don't want, I wouldn't think we'd want them to. So it seems like maybe we can talk to Julie and find out
yeah,
if we
I'll
can,
give Margot a call.
special for the workshop sessions, if we can put them out, because otherwise I think we're selling some of our parents or a lot of our parents short. But I agree with you. I mean, normally you answer the person that's asking the question.
Right.
And normally they're in the room with you. So, all right. Yeah, let's reach out to Julie and
Yep, no problem.
we can talk about it at the agenda meeting.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yep.
Anything else? Mike,
Thursday.
nice job, Mike.
Laura, did you want to say anything? You said in the beginning that you wanted to talk about the percentage. I know we're running short on time.
I can, if you're all right with that, I can maybe sneak them in for our next session. I can respond when we have more time. So our next session is September 3rd, and we're talking about health and safety, but I can also embed your question and then just a little response in regards to IDs, student IDs.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll carry them over.
And also the logging of those IDs was one of the key aspects, you know, like who sat where and were they on the bus. That was one of the sort of follow-ups of, you know, how do we make sure 3 days after a bus run that the bus driver has a record of who was on the bus, who wasn't on the bus. I think that's going to be very important. And if we can do it by giving the kids IDs, that could be just scanned so the bus driver doesn't have yet another thing they got to do.
They're gonna have a, yeah, well, so the transportation folks, Perry, already committed to having an attendance sheet at daily. And that's something that they've done before, not here, but in other places. So that happens seamlessly, and they're gonna have assigned seats. So every child is gonna be, unless we have to change that based on what we talked about with John's question about entry and exit for safety, they're gonna be having assigned seats. So in that way, it's going to be pretty seamless.
Well, I like I said, I don't want to put it on, you know, was little Johnny on the bus and did he stay in the seat the entire time? I don't want the bus driver, and it was 4 days ago. I think he was. That's like, that can't be the answer. So either if they have to write it down, but literally RF is pretty almost pennies. So think about it. Maybe we start manual, you know, if we're going to have to do this for a while. I don't know how long contact tracing is going to stay in effect, but I have a feeling it's probably well past the end of this year.
Brian, I mean, the technology has come so far. I mean, you can have an app on your phone.
Right.
And, you know, to have how many pieces of paper by the end of a month of how many bus routes you have and everything else,
Yeah.
that can get kind of messy. Just keep that in mind. I mean, if you had the app, you can have a spreadsheet and you'd have everything at your fingertips in minutes. So
Tell Elliot to get on.
I think part of that, though, there's concern regarding the safety of children with IDs on them. So I think that was sort of the response. I'll just share quickly the responses. A few said, please do not require IDs for my children. They feel that that opens their children up to unsafe people, predators. Some staff members said, we know our kids, but there was a concern that if there is a substitute bus driver, that may be helpful to have an ID. Somebody else said it's a good idea because it creates a layer of security. and you get students ready for college and the adult world, but did wonder about,
Why don't we just take a look at what it would take to do, and we can make a decision whether it makes sense. I mean, I know our staff know their kids. I know the bus drivers know their kids. But when a kid gets on the bus with a mask covering their nose, mouth, chin, and a hat covering the top of their head, you know, that's going to be pretty difficult on the fly to, you know, to knock off every kid that's going by. So, I mean, you know, I understand, and maybe they don't have to put the ID, maybe they don't even have to like take the ID out. They don't have to wear, I don't know. But just take a look at it, because somehow we've got to give our, you know, the safety and security of people walking in our building, right? Who is that? Well, they should have some sort of ID. Everybody on this call wears an ID, except for you, John. Anyway,
If it's a scanned tag, it doesn't really have to have. I know Perry's saying ID so you know who they are, but if it's just like a Planet Fitness tag, all they'd have to do is scan it, and the
Yep.
name would be on the school bus's phone. But and I understand as far as the security, I don't have my child's name anywhere on any of their stuff,
yeah.
because you know if someone sees it, they can use it to their advantage. So I understand that point, but there's other ways around it. We could think through it to make it safe.
I agree. I think it's just when you say ID, people think picture, lanyard, and that their child is exposed to the world around them. So absolutely, it's all in sort of what we, if we choose to do that, what it looks like, and that it's not only keeping our buildings secure, but it's keeping our kids safe too. That's really the feedback I got.
all right, anything else from anybody? All right, well, we'll do it again on Thursday.
Health and safety.
There you go.
Motion to adjourn.
See you guys.
No, we have to do a motion to adjourn.
I make the motion.
Do I have a
Second.
second? Any discussion? All
Thank
in
you,
favor?
John.
Any against? All right.
Okay, now you can leave.
Keep them in line, Cheryl.
Thank you, everybody.
I'm
Thank
trying.
you.
It's a rough crowd.
Stay
Thank you,
safe.
guys.
Thank
See
you.
guys. Thank
Have a
you.
good night.
Just had one question that I need to just write down, and then I'll close out the meeting.
Okay.
But
Thanks, Cheryl. Thanks, Brian.
Thank
Nice
You're
job.
welcome. Have a good night. I'll talk to you guys tomorrow.
Yeah.